Hey! You're thinking shit is bad.
Sorry, squirrels. You know, I could see it was dead on the bottom, and that's why we kind of got out of there fast. I knew all you have to do was give it a little bit of a cut, and that thing was going to go. But it has a squirrel's nest in there.
The liquid.
A lot of times deer just like a variety. You know, no matter what you have for food plots, 80% of what they eat is going to be browse. So we'll ring a couple and show you how we do that. And then we'll keep the project rolling. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning into our YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button below. We're here today doing some hinge cutting. And we've done most of it already. And normally we're done like in the winter and stuff before it leaves out. But this is like one of our favorite farms right here. I mean, it's probably one of my best farms for big deer. And we've had this spot along the west side of a big food plot we have up here. And it's so open. And for years, I've been saying we need to hinge cut this. We need to do some work in here. If you look at it, like for a deer, no matter what you have for food, 80% of their diet is going to be browse and 20% is going to be from your food plots. So here we spend 100% of our time on food plots and 0% of our time in our timber, where we should be spending a lot of time in here in the timber. So as you can see, I mean, it's canopied up in here. You can see right through it. The ground cover, I mean, there's obviously some plants and stuff in here, but it's short. You know, you don't have really good sunlight in here to grow, you know, good browse for them. So on this side of the food plot up there, it's a long stretch down there, and there's just a big series of ridges in here. And on every one of these ridges, you know, these deer like to bed, and it's fine. They still bed in here. There's a million deer in here all the time. But when you try to walk in, you try to walk out, you know, you'll get deer up running, and all of a sudden you got a whole herd running out of here. So it's super hard to get in and out with this open. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the tops of these ridges, and I'm gonna still leave plenty of open spots for them to move, because we have, you know, over to the, you know, farther west, we have another big food plot. They move back and forth between. That's what makes this timber so good. But we just want to take the tops. We're going to lay a bunch of these down for cover. And I do like, you know, we do most of our stuff in the winter time, but I do like when it is leafed out like this, because now you can see how shady it is in here. And so as you drop stuff, you can see how much sun you're letting in there, which you can't always see in the winter time. You know, you think you got it open, and then when it leaves out, it's like, oh man. So now each one that I drop, you start dropping some trees, you can see, okay, we've got a lot of sunlight in here. That's a good spot. Let's keep moving. And so what we're doing, first of all, we just kind of walk through and just find, for that first tree, like a good landing spot. And this is pretty much open right in here. So we think, hey, there's a tree right there. We can land one there. And there's that one, can go back that way. Just to get a start, to give yourself some room. Because you don't want to hang those trees up if you start hinging one and it catches on another tree, you know, and just hangs up there. Number one, it's dangerous. And number two, it's just not what you want. You want every tree to fall to the ground. So they have all these leaves that are up 100 feet in the air right now. We want them right here that deer can browse on them, and those tops. And we want to hinge them so they stay living. They'll live for 2 and 3 years, and sometimes even longer if you leave a good hinge piece on there. And that's the problem you get into in the spring a little bit more. You know, sometimes they'll break off, but it just works better if you do in summer or winter. And of course, you always want to have 2 people. That's why I got Big George out here with me. Anytime we hinge cut, the biggest thing is safety first. Always have another person, and you can start with just cutting trees like the size of your arm and girdling the bigger ones. And that's what we do. I mean, we've been doing it for a long time, so we'll cut bigger trees, and you know, but anything real big, we'll girdle, and we'll talk a little bit about what we spray on them. But put a couple of rings in a tree, spray, get any of that little spray in there, that tree is dead right now. So that's what we'll do on any big ones, or some that I think could hang up. So we really pay attention to our timber too, to make sure we keep the timber value as far as, you know, the trees themselves and the acorns and walnuts and things like that. So we're trying to get some of the trashier trees out of here at the same time, as well as improving the habitat and everything else. So we're going to start right here in this landing. You need that very first tree. You need a place for it to land. And then that creates another hole. You put another one, and then another one, and then another one. So we'll find our landing first, and this looks like a good place to start. Okay, we're gonna start with this locust tree right here. You can see it's pretty much straight up here, but it's a big branch going out that way, so it looks like most of the weight will fall down that way, and I got a good lane down here. I'm gonna cut some of that, like that dead one, a couple of those dead ones that are there, and some of these little ones. I don't want to hang up on anything, so we're just gonna create more of a lane for this one to fall first. Then once that one's down, then we'll start filling in behind it. So. Okay, one other thing, like when we're hinging, what I'd like to do is kind of keep them at like my jaw level or my, you know, right about chest level. You see like this little one that I cut there. And see, this is what you're looking for. You cut this, you want to keep this piece connected. So I'll keep feeding moisture, nutrients to the leafy tops. You see I brought all those leaves right down to the ground. Plus you leave a little canopy. Those deer like to get underneath. And they'll lay right on that hillside. You get some sun in here, especially in the wintertime. They love laying up against this stuff. Of course, this is a real small tree. It's a small example, but we'll have a bunch of the big ones in there too. But that's exactly what you want. I try to do stuff like right at my chin level, across, hinge it like that, and give them something to kind of get underneath, some shelter in there, both deer and turkeys on that. So that one, this one leans in. Do the same thing on this one.
Squirrel! Hey! You think he shit his pants?
Sorry, squirrels. You know, I could see it was dead on the bottom, and that's why we kind of got out of there fast. I knew all you have to do was give it a little bit of a cut, and that thing was going to go. But it has a squirrel's nest in there. Sorry, guys, but deer are more important. But see, that's a pretty big tree, too, for a lot of people that are not, you know, if you haven't done it before, you probably don't want to tackle one like that size. That's pretty big, but like I said, I knew it was dead from down there. So as soon as I did a little bit, I could tell the saw was going right through it. As soon as you hear that first crack, you just get out of the way, because those things there's a chance that they can shoot backwards. You want to get the heck out of the way on those.
Yeah, the biggest thing we've learned is have an escape route.
That one cut perfect. You know, kept the wedge on there. That thing will grow leaves for a couple of years here now, and that leaves us another landing spot. You know, that's a big tree to tackle. Like for most people, like you really, you know, we could even bring that one right there, but it's leaning so far that way. That big hickory, you know, I think that one would be safe enough for us to give that a cut. As soon as you hear it cracking, we'll get out of the way.
I'd cut more on that side because I don't want it to roll on you. There she goes. She's gonna twist. I knew.
Well, that one broke off, you know, which, because it twisted, it had so much weight on the one side. But, you know, you'll get that a bunch, especially in the bigger the tree. That's why I was so happy with those other ones that, you know, stayed connected on that. But it's another point, you know, a lot of times you think about cutting them. Most of the time you're just cutting down a tree. People do wedges or take an angle out of it. For me, I like to just go straight across and just let it, you know, look at it first and see which way you think it's going to go. And then just cut straight across, because you want it just to go nice and slow and to keep that connected. But of course, that one was leaning so much and it spun on us. But look what that created, though. I mean, how much sun in here, number one. How much sun also that's letting in. And then just all the underneath these big trees and big logs and stuff. And that's what, you know, that's what's nice about being, you know, cutting some of the bigger ones. Even though it's more dangerous, and things. You know, if you're careful, have 2 people with, always have an escape route. As soon as it starts to crack a little bit, get out of there. But those bigger trees are what create more cover for those deer. They like getting in there, and you'll see, like, I got some old dead trees up here that had fallen themselves. That's where we always find sheds. Is you can guarantee you go in around those big trees that are dead like that in the wintertime, they're gonna lay there. But now, when this is open like this, you have not only the cover for them to lay in, you get sunlight on them in the wintertime, and this is where they're gonna be. This is where they're gonna be laying. This is where we're gonna start finding sheds.
Cut this one
I'm
tree,
just
yeah.
a little one out of here to get this.
I cut that one up high, like as high as you can reach there. Just give it a little more, yeah. Oh, that's what, yeah, that's why sometimes when you cut them high, it gets a little more angle.
Right, yeah. So that's why, like George had a good point there. It's like, you know, I kind of cut them here, but sometimes you want to come up even higher to create, you know, so that top falls down, has less chance of it breaking there, kind of keep it connected. And it gives it more room that deer can walk underneath them and stuff and still to get back in there. But a lot of times, even if they're bedded back in that stuff, you know, they want to have an escape route out too. They don't want to get too tied in there if, you know, a coyote or something comes that they don't have nowhere to go. They want escape routes out too. So, you know, this is good for this area. You see how much sunlight that brought in, the leaves on the trees. You see how open that is? Perfect. We'll just keep working our way up, and just, you never do like a giant pieces. We just take a couple acres at a time. Let's just do this ridge. We've got maybe 4 or 5 ridges. Literally this ridge, if we weren't filming right now, we said George and I going, it would take us maybe an hour, 40 minutes to an hour to do each ridge. So really, by the end of the day, you know, we'd have this whole thing done. So stay tuned. We'll keep showing. We'll ring a couple and show you how we do that, and then we'll keep the project rolling. Okay, so I just cut like this little ironwood here, and these are the kind that you really get a lot of bang for your buck. They're easy to cut, they're small, they usually hinge really good. They're just no bigger than your arm. Did an ironwood there and a hackberry here. But even those little ones, you'll see how much sunlight they block down there. So those medium-sized trees are really important. And now you look at these big trees, these two, you know, I'd have no use for a locust or a shagbark hickory in here, but these are pretty big. You know, like I said, the other one, we did a big one because it was leaning really good. You knew you could do it, but you just never know. This could be dead inside and you could start going, it could snap back and hit you or something. So these are perfect candidates for ringing them. And so, you know, we just don't know exactly which way that one's gonna fall, but I would like to kill it so it'll fall eventually, but at least we'll kill it and those leaves won't be on there. We'll get sunlight through this as well. So what we normally do on these, okay, so now I just rung this. I usually do 2 rings, and all you gotta do is just get through the bark, get into the meat of the tree. You gotta go an inch or 2 or whatever on a tree like this. I just got a spray bottle here. Like I said, again, this is Garlon 3A, which is 50%, 40% water, 10% arsenal. And like I said, just mix either the Garlon or the arsenal first with the water, and then the second one in. Otherwise, if you mix the 2 chemicals, it'll gel. But all you gotta do is just spray a little bit into that. So a lot of time with that, we put a little bit of blue food coloring in there that'll color that a little bit. So sometimes you come out here, you know, if you run out or something and you're ringing them and you guys say, I'll come back and spray them later. If you want to do it later or whatever, at least you can see which ones have been hit and which ones haven't been. So that's basically in a nutshell. You know, we've done it on a lot of farms and you do it for a lot of different reasons. You know, mostly, you know, 100% is, you know, I want to create some cover and increase the browse, increase the carrying capacity. But you also use it to funnel deer places and stuff too. We'll have, you know, a lot of different farms. If hey, I don't want them to go that way, I want to try to focus them, try to get them going north and south or east and west to food plots and staying off of neighboring pieces or whatever. Or if you have a food plot that you have a stand and, you know, you got predominantly northwest winds, I'm going to funnel them to one side of a tree stand for the predominant winds or whatever. So we do use it a lot for other things as well, but for me, you know, 99% of what we do on these for hinge cutting and timber stand improvement stuff is for habitat work. You know, it's not like you get to October 1st and blow the dust off your bow and say, hey, let's go shoot a big one, and there, boom, you shoot one. It's a lot of work, and you'll see through the series goes, and that's kind of why we wanted to do the summer series on YouTube, because a lot of stuff you can't put in, you know, in the TV show. And I'm telling you, if you mimic, you know, some of the work that we do here, it's going to greatly increase your chance of shooting that buck if you got a big one on your place, or even if you don't know, if it's hunt on public places or whatever. At least you can always get some ideas of things to do, not like this on public places or anything like that, but when we get to tree stand setup and wind setups and all that kind of stuff that we'll eventually get to. But we'll be getting into deer strategy, and then we'll get into the hunting season. It'll be all of our hunts and all that stuff and how it's all panning out. We'll see a lot of this work that we're doing right here, you'll see to come together this fall. All right, as you see, we kind of just worked our way up to the field edge up here, and it really didn't take us more than an hour. You know, and like I said before, you kind of hate to get the ones that hang up, but even if you do, like I had one that hung up right there, you just find other trees to fall on it and knock it down. So, you know, so it's not hanging up. And so we kind of worked this whole ridge and came up to the field edge. Now we'll just go to the next ridge and we'll just keep working our way down. But, you know, just safety first on the things, and just do things that you're comfortable with, you know, the smaller trees, and leave the big ones, you know, just ring the bigger ones if you're not comfortable with them. But, you know, keep with 2 people, make a good plan, find landing zones for the first one, and then, you know, not just cutting willy-nilly. We go in here and we pick them all out. Okay, that one should follow this way. Let's do that one first to get a landing pad, and then we can land that one into that one. And, you know, come up with a good plan, and it goes fast and safe, and, you know, it all works out the way you want it to. But look at the cover we have in here. All the sunlight coming in, hitting the ground, kind of accomplishes everything that we need to right here. So once again, thanks for watching. Hit subscribe. We have a lot more stuff coming up in the future all year long for you. We're getting into deer stuff, strategies pretty soon, so stay tuned.
That's a good way to lose weight in winter.
Yeah, you gotta wear long sleeve shirts and everything else. Well, here's another example of a hinge cutting project that we did on another farm. This is the same farm that I've been working on the frost seeding and stuff for my split G3 buck and stuff. And here's like a road that goes into that little food plot. You know, of course, there's so many reasons that you do the hinge cutting, like we already talked about. You know, you need to release, you know, the forest floor, open that up, get browse in there. You know, a deer, no matter what you have for food plots, 80% of what they eat is going to be browse. So, but people do it the opposite way around. They spend like 100% of their time on food plots and like 0% of their time on their timber. And you can see here some of the pieces that we did right here. And this was basically not so much a project right here to open up the forest and get food in there. We've done that a bunch in the interior of that, but this is like the road right here. And you see that these deer, they go across the road a ton to eat. There's big alfalfa fields over there, which is fine. As of right now, nobody hunts over there. There's not even timber by the road. They just go over there to feed. And a lot of times you think, well, that's okay. You know, let them eat over there and come back in here. But you know, things change. Never take that for granted that nobody's hunting over there, because it always can change. So what we want to do here is make a natural, not necessarily a barrier. I mean, they can get through this. And so this whole end was all solid timber. We have big food plots on the south end, but the deer that live up here, the only food source they had was going across the street. So we just bought a farm on the north end that has a lot of open ground. We put our big food plots in there, but that was always just grass. So we've got that all in now. We got corn in there. We've got, you know, big alfalfa fields, big clover fields. We're gonna have perfect 10, you know, turnip fields and things like that. So what we did is we hinge cut a bunch of this. Number one, so you can't see from the road. You can't see in here. Normally this was so open, you could just look and you'd see deer in here and you'd drive by and deer would run. We wanted to feel more secure right in here, especially around my food plots in here. But more than anything, I want to start encouraging these deer basically to move north and south instead of east and west on this farm, because we have big food on the south and now we have big food on the north. And so, you know, these deer are just creatures of habit. And even when we do this, you'll see that it won't affect, they'll find their ways through and they'll all go back over there. But the ones that are born now, like these fawns from this year, when that doe starts bringing them around, and then maybe a doe can jump through this stuff, but they see their fawns can't, we're encouraging them to go north and south, bring their fawns up to the north and eat there instead of trying to get through this jungle, or go south there where it's easy walking for them. And they'll just imprint on those fawns that they'll start when they get to be adults. That will be their habit. They'll be going north and south. So we're just trying to encourage these deer to travel onto our food plots instead of onto neighbors' food. So that's what we've done along this whole side here. you'll see all this hinge cut here we did, a month ago. And you see how the leaves are still growing when you hinge them like that? All those leaves and buds and everything, now they have so much food right here that they never had before. It was always up at 50 feet up in the air. Now it's on the ground, so they have all kinds of browse. You can see how it opens up the canopy. You got all the browse on the bottom in here. And we've done that, like I said, all over throughout this farm. And not the whole thing. You just take patches. Like we take the tops of, like the hilltops of all these ditches and stuff. You do the tops, places where they can bed, open it up. But on this specific spot along this fence, it serves two purposes. Number one, for the food. Number two, to encourage that movement north and south. And you'll see, like, there'll be less deer going that way already because of this, and you'll start seeing pouring into our fields up on the north end. But over 3 and 4 years, once all these deer know that food's up there, you'll see very little movement east and west. You'll see 90% of it north and south. We've done it 100 times. Trust me, this works.